But welcome back, everybody. We are happy to welcome you back to our evening program this night. And our keynote speaker, I am privileged to have the opportunity to have known Harriet for a long time, and to get the chance to introduce her tonight. Harriet has been a attendee and guest at our Jerry Malloy Negro League conference many times in the past. And so I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce Harriet and then turn it over to her. So, Dr. Harriet Kimbro-Hamilton from Nashville, Tennessee, got her BS degree in health and phys ed from Fisk University, MS degree in sports administration from Florida State, and in 2003 received her doctorate in sport and recreation management from Temple University. Prior to her retirement, she worked at Tennessee State University, as well as Alabama A&M, Stillman College, Bethune-Cookman College, a Metro-Davidson County School teacher, and at Fisk University, she was also former athletic director and coach. In 2015, Dr. Kimbro-Hamilton published her first book called Daddy's Scrapbook, Henry Kimbrough of the Negro Baseball League, A Daughter's Perspective. That book received the Robert Peterson Recognition Award at the 19th Annual Jerry Malloy Negro League Conference in 2016. That award is given annually for bodies of work that increase public awareness about the Negro Baseball Leagues. In 2020, Dr. Kimbro-Hamilton published her second book with her son Patrick, called Home Plate, Henry Kimbrough, and Other Negro Leaguers of Nashville, Tennessee. That book was donated to all of the middle and high school libraries by the Nashville Sounds Baseball Organization. Currently, Dr. Kimbro-Hamilton has just completed work on a documentary titled A Tour of One City, The History of the Negro Leagues in Nashville and Beyond. As of today, her documentary has been selected to show at the Charlotte Film Festival and the Marina Del Rey Film Festival. At the Marina Del Rey Film Festival, a documentary was awarded the Grand Prize Best Documentary for the television category. And at our most recent 25th Jerry Malloy Negro Leagues conference, we also had the opportunity to screen Dr. Hamilton's documentary. And so, welcome, Dr. Kimbro-Hamilton. We're so glad to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, and good evening to all baseball fans. We are just so honored that you asked us to come and share my story about how I got from point A to point now. I always like to say point now, which is thanks to the good Lord above, I can classify myself as a film director, which my family is still scratching their head and trying to figure that one out. But I am appreciative of that blessing. And before I get started, I really would just like to take a few minutes to say thank you all, because I felt like this has been a celebration of grit and grace and game changers of us all. I am impressed with everyone. We all in our little corner of life, of the world, we're making a difference. We have made a difference. We have impacted people. And so that is a point of celebration. I think that we need to pat ourselves on the back, and especially the women that I have met that have been game changers and have broken down barriers, so many barriers, and we all are still fighting a good fight. And so I'm appreciative of you all, and congratulations to you all. So I've been asked to talk about my journey and my journey to now. But my journey to now started way back when I was born into baseball. I didn't have a choice. My father was a Negro Leaguer when I came around the corner. My mother was Cuban. And so if you know any Cubans, you know that they are all crazy about baseball. My grandfather played baseball. All of my uncles played baseball. They are all baseball fans. And of course, when my mother brought my father home, he was good because he was a baseball player. And he also happened to be one of the better baseball players in Cuba. He won a batting title there. He won a championship with one of the teams there. And so that's the journey. That's when I showed up. When I showed up, it was all about baseball. So I really, never really had a chance. And I am very, very proud of that. And so my documentary, it's been a circle of from the beginning to now. And what you see on the screen now are the men. And there is one woman, even though she wasn't at this affair to be put in the picture, and that's Henriette Green. She was when her husband Vernon Green had a heart attack and passed. She was the owner of the Baltimore Elite Giants because they came from from the Nashville Elite Giants to the Baltimore Elite Giants. And so that's why my documentary is called a Tour of Two Cities. And let me stop at that tour of two cities because I've been asked, why did you say that? Because I grew up in a place where there was two cities. There was a black Nashville and there was a white Nashville. And so I grew up in the black part. I went to black schools until one year they decided that my group would be the first to integrate the high school. And so that's why I know the tale of two cities because that is my background, that is my heritage. So these are the men that and Miss Green that we honor because, of course, when people talk about Negro Leagues, of course, there's nothing wrong with saying Satchel Paige. There's nothing wrong with saying Josh Gibson. There's nothing wrong. Everybody in the country knows them and others. Cool Papa Bell. But my concern and my point is when I ask the children that are in our public school systems and in our private schools, what do you know of the Negro Leagues in Nashville? They knew nothing. They repeated those names, and there's nothing wrong with that. I applaud that. But I found it somewhat insulting that they didn't know some of these guys and Miss Green. Why do you not know? Because no one is teaching that. They are required to read We Are the Ship, which is a wonderful book, wonderful book. But there was nothing in their libraries that would tell them about us and my father and all of the other Negro Leaguers. And we had a large population in Nashville. And I got to know them because my father owned his own gas station, and they would come by, and sometimes they would all meet and greet there. And so I got a lot of trash talking, and I would hear a lot of lies, as they would say it, on their playing abilities. And but they did tell me, did you know your father was a heck of a ball player? And when I was little, when I was in high school, I knew nothing. My father didn't talk. I said, who are you talking about? They said, your dad. He played professional baseball. Who? Just totally, I was ignorant at that point. So I went straight to my father, who was on the other side of the property, and I said, Daddy, those men over there said, you played professional baseball. And my father, being my father, said, oh, I played a little bit. And that was the end of the conversation. Okay. So you getting in the whiff with my dad. That conversation ended. No more conversation. Okay, I'm gonna have to wait another time, but I went on to do my homework and my research. I'm thinking, this man is Clark Kent, isn't he? He's Superman, and I didn't even know that. So that was my appointment to find out as much as I could about my father and what these men are talking about. And who are they anyway? Because they keep coming around and talking more trash. And I enjoyed it because they were funny. They were funny to me. But there was a brotherhood there that I did not understand. And I wanted to get to that brotherhood and understand that. And so I began to do that. So um, okay, the next slide that I'm going to show you gives you just a little tease of this is our trailer, our 30-second trailer that talks about the documentary. And that happens to be my niece, who is an anchor in Memphis of the news. She's a important anchor journalist. And she did this. I tried to pay her as part of, the team. And I had to chase her to my front door to try to give her the money. And she still refused. She was faster than I was. And I thought, when did I ever get this slow? I don't remember being this slow. Oh my gosh. So she did this 30-second trailer, and she is the narrator for the entire video. The history of Negro the Nashville and Beyond. First stop on the shore, the Tom Wilson Park Historical Water, which is one of our current. And so that's why I made this the tour. Every spot that we have that is important to the Negro Leagues. My fairy dust moment that I love what was shared yesterday evening was when I was young. One of the things my father did was whenever he would take my brother out to teach him how to play baseball, how to catch, how to throw, how to slide, he would take me out also, which I didn't know that other girls were not experiencing the same thing. My first grade experiences was, Leslie, I took my gloves, I took my glove to school for show and tell to tell everybody, and thought, well, I'll get to see some of their stuff. And so I turned around, and because I was sitting in the front, and I said, well, I play baseball. What do you play? And the other girls looked at me, very funny, and they said, we play dolls. And I looked around the room and I thought, okay, you are different from everyone else in the room. And I thought, well, that's okay, because thank God I had a mother that said, your uniqueness is your power. And never forget that. Your uniqueness is your power. So my glove, even though it was a right-handed glove, and I became very good because I'm a left-hander. Let me say that. So I played with that right-handed glove, and I got very good at taking it off and changing and doing all the things that I needed to do. Didn't realize that that was different. And so, and my father saw me not struggle, but become efficient. And I guess he figured out that she's going to continue to play this baseball thing. And she's struggling. So one day he came home and he had a very old, beat up left-handed glove. And that was that moment as a little girl who looked up to her father. That was my empowerment. I thought my dad had just given me the keys to the city because he gave me that glove. He looked at me and he said, go play ball. And to me, go play ball meant go do your thing. Whatever it is, go do your thing. Because my father did not accept, well, I thought I could do it, or there was no conversation. If you remember, no conversation. Either you do or you don't. And so that was my upbringing. And I thought my daddy just gave me a left-handed glove and I'm getting ready to play some baseball and I can do anything I decide to do. And that has been my career. I've never apologized to anybody for being unique because my mother told me my uniqueness was my power, for being a girl, because Miss Cece, I was like you. When I heard your story, I said, oh, yes. I remember those days because they always tried to pull my hair and thought, because I had 2 long pigtails. And the boys always tried to, and I told my daddy, I said, they keep pulling my hair, Daddy. And he said, you get that Fisk ready and you hold it down low. And when they pull your hair, you come around with that left. And I got in trouble. And yes, I got into fights. And, and so was born me. And they took me to the office. And they said, this is in middle school. Up to middle school, believe it or not. And I told the principal, don't call my daddy. Call the police, but don't call my daddy. And he said, no, we got to call your daddy. So that was even worse. So that started my father, instead of me getting a whooping, because that was on the table. Hello, that was on the table. I got a talking to, because my mother told my daddy, you sit down and you talk to her. She's got to be a lady. She cannot solve her problems by throwing an uppercut or whatever you taught her. And and my father did. He said, you know what? I want to challenge you to be the person that you need to be so you can move forward in life. And so kind of tone down all the other things that I've taught you. Now it's time for you to be a lady, an educated lady, a lady that knows how to get there and knows where she's going. And so that was another part of my upbringing, which I loved. So that is the picture that the story was about. And as you can tell, when my father played, one of the things that I had to do was I always had to get my daddy's hat. And my brother, he really didn't fight me for it because I was the aggressive one. So, and that's not the glove. That just kind of tells you what the glove kind of looked like. That left-hander's glove. It was very, very old, and I wish I could have kept that glove, and I can't tell you where that glove is today. But because of my mother, again, this is in front of our house, the house I grew up in, and that's my father and that's my mother. My father kept a scrapbook. And believe it or not, I have the scrapbook with me right now. This is the original scrapbook. And one of the things, it's 70 plus years old. And let me show you the beginning. Here, that's a picture of Roy Campanella when he played in the Mexican League. And he sent a picture to my dad and everybody on the team, wishing the team well because he got mad at Tom Wilson and had left the Negro Leagues. Just a little piece of history that's all in this book. My daddy's stat, the stat of the team, pictures of the Eli Giants, whether they were in Nashville or whether they were Baltimore. I tell you who my father really respected because he had several articles about Satchel Paige. And most people don't know that Satchel Paige was in Nashville to play for the Nashville Eli Giants. He never did, but he was brought to Nashville by Tom Wilson, the owner, to come. And so obviously there had to be some friendship that came about because my father began to collect his stats, articles about Satchel Paige. So from that alone, I gathered that they had a respect for each other, a rapport for each other. But Satchel left and went on to another team and never got to play for the Eli Giants. But this scrapbook helped me write the books that I began to write because when my father passed, my mother gave me the scrapbook and she said, do something with this. And I thought, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And the only direction my mother gave me before she passed was, you'll know. And my mother knew me because she knew that I was always up for taking on a challenge, whether it's pull my hair or to research my father as a Negro leaguer. And so I began to research, and that's when the scrapbook wrote itself. And that's why my first book was called Daddy's Scrapbook, A Daughter's Perspective, because I can only tell you about Daddy. And I know most of the players that I talked to said they were scared of my daddy. So the people that played with him were scared. And, he was already, he was scared by the children in the neighborhood. And I tell you what, some of the grown-ups were kind of scared of him. And I'm thinking, well, what has he done that he's got this reputation and he's got all of this? Well, my father had a temper and he didn't stand for anything. I'm just going to tell you straight up. He didn't stand for anything. That's all it was to it. And when he wanted to talk to you, he talked. And when he didn't want to talk to you, he didn't talk to you anymore. And he would go, his own way. And so with that, I wrote my daddy's scrapbook, A Daughter's Perspective, because I saw all of the other perspectives that was out there. And I thought, well, I'm not going to tell your story about my dad. I'm going to tell my story. And so after I wrote that, I could hear my mother's passed. When I wrote the book, it took me years to get everything together, but my mother passed, and I could hear her saying, now, what about the others? And I thought, okay, Mama, I'll write another book about the others. And all of those that you saw in the picture, all of them together, I wanted to write about them and their story for their families, because my family already had Daddy's scrapbook. And so I thought, okay, we'll write this book. And it was well received in the public schools, by the librarians that all had copies mailed to them. Thank you, the Nashville Sounds, who I happen to be very good friends to and very good friends of. They are so wonderful. They even had last year a Henry Kimbrough Day, in which they gave away bobbleheads of my father, and the team wore the Eli Giants uniforms. And so it was a wonderful day for my family and my friends, and so many people came and just celebrated. And so moving forward came the tour of one city. Now we are here because I did the research. I collected a library of Negro League books. Leslie, I have yours, I have Larry's, I've got, oh my gosh, I can name everybody that wrote about the Negro Leagues because I've got it upstairs. And so I began to go to their homes, to the Negro Leaguers' home, those that were left, to just do interviews. And I took my camera, hopefully that, I thought I did a pretty good job. And I did, because I had so much footage from all of the Negro Leaguers that were left, Jim Zapp, my buddy, so many of them. And a funny story that happened during this time, I was calling them all the time because I had, I always had questions. And I wanted to go and sit down and tell me about this and tell me about that. And so I would call quite a bit. So when I would call, some of them were hard of hearing. Some of them wouldn't remember your name. And I told them, my name is Harriet. Just like my daddy was Henry. Thank God they didn't name me Henry. Nothing wrong with Henry, Leslie. But when I saw her name, I thought, woo, I like Harriet. But anyway, I would call, and I would call all of them so often. So Zapp in particular, and a couple of the others, I would say, this is Harriet. And they would say, who? And so I said, I'm Henry Kimbrough's daughter. They said, oh, little Kimbrough? Is this little Kimbrough? I said, yes, this is little Kimbrough. Yes, this is little Kimbrough. They're like, oh, come on over to the house, or we'll be there. We'll be there at 3:00, or come by at 6:00. Can you make it? And all that conversation. And I would call all of them. So one said, I got a little call from little Kimbrough. And the other said, little Kimbrough. Yeah, little Kimbrough. So my name became little Kimbrough. Skip can tell you this. And he laughed at this story. And so I would call, and again, this is Harriet. I would call over and over again, this is Harriet. Finally, this is little Kimbrough. I just hung my head. I give up. Y'all win. I'm little Kimbrough from now on. So that was another fairy dust moment where I became part of the group. I was one of the boys now, Miss Cece, because I was little Kimbrough. But I began to look at all the footage and I thought, well, what am I going to do with all of this? And of course, my mother My mother was a spiritual soul. So am I. And I truly believe that God speaks to us through dreams and people we love. And for me, it was my mother. She was my first teacher because she was a teacher. She taught school. And so my mother was my first teacher who I truly love. And it's only been a couple of years that I could talk about my mother and not cry. So I'm at a good place now because there is a connection between my mother and I. And so I could hear her voice saying, "You need to tell the story because if you don't do it, no one else will." And so who's going to tell the story? And that only meant one thing to me. I kind of knew then I was in that, okay, I guess I'm doing a documentary now. And my mother, God bless her soul, left a house to us that she owned in Miami. And after a while, between fighting with my Miami aunties and uncles through the court system, that's another story of Cubans being Americanized. So finally, we got the house and we sold the house, and it went for a nice, it's in Hialeah. So you all know that it's good property. And so we sold it for almost $500,000. And so we all got our cut. And I kind of held on to my little cut because I said, you know what? Something is coming down the pike. I don't know what it is, but something is coming down the pike. And so when you see the credits, the first person you will see as the executive producer of this documentary is Herbia Mendoza Kimbro, my mother. The second name is my husband because I didn't ask, but he just gave me a check one day and said, use this. And it was a nice piece of check. And I thought, well, God, you just blessed me. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. I took all the money and put it in the bank, all the money and put it in that fund. And I'm not going to say that money was no object, but I think I did a good job along with my director, my co-director, who happened to be someone that I met just on Fisk University's campus because he had to film me saying a speech. And I thought, well, what do you do? And he said, when I saw the video, I thought, he makes me look so good. I said, would you like to talk about maybe doing a documentary with me? Anybody that can make me look that good. Oh my gosh. I thought, you have got to do this with me. And he did. And he's now working on his doctorate in Boston. And I don't know, I think he's at Boston College. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's in Boston. And so that's how we got to a tour of one city. And I am holding my Marina Del Rey award there. And I'd like to announce today, it will be 3 weeks from now, we have a International Black Film Festival here in Nashville, and my film will be screened here in Nashville for all the families that's in the book, and I have informed all of them to come and get a ticket, and the ticket is not very expensive. It's $12 to come and bring all of your family members to see the Nashville review of my documentary, which is up for competition. But there's stiff competition there. There's a couple of documentaries that I'm going to see because I'm impressed with some of the documentaries. I'm thinking, wow. And this wasn't about me winning anything ever. It was about my mother's challenge. Who's going to tell the story? And so this will be going to our Tennessee library, archives, and things of that nature. I've already talked to them. I'm not sure. They may be getting my father's collection. I'm still working on that, but they will be getting this documentary. They already have my books there, which I appreciate. So anybody in the state of Tennessee can get that book. So I am very appreciative to them for this. And on that, I'm going to stop sharing. If this will allow me, this is the break, not the break you all are going on. Leslie, you have to be in charge of this. I just put that there as the end. But let me get to stop sharing. Okay, I did it. Good. No, I'm so proud of myself. I apologize. The confusion. I have been out of the classroom for, I want to say, 7 years now. So sorry.
Oh no apologies necessary. Trust me, happens to all of us. It's just the nature. But that was amazing. And so if you've got questions, you can either put them in the chat, or if you raise your little hand, either your virtual one or your real one, and I can see it, I will happily call on you so you can ask some questions of Harriet. But Harriet, uh, I'm interested to ask you a few questions. And so you said you were still playing in middle school. How long did you keep playing baseball yourself?
Um, until I took up another sport. In high school, I played basketball and I played volleyball. And so half of my career, I was the first women's basketball coach. I started the women's basketball program at Bethune-Cookman College. I am a Title IX pioneer. Let's put it that way. Out of Florida State, I was hired to be to start their women's basketball program at Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona Beach, Florida. And within 2 years, we won the state championship. And my alma mater called me back. And so I went back to Fisk University, where I became the first women's basketball. I gave them their first women's basketball championship there, along with volleyball. We're still waiting for someone to break that record. And I go to all the games and say, come on now, well, somebody's got to do this. But and then that's how I was led to being an athletic director. And I was the first female athletic director at Fisk. So I will tell you, my fights didn't stop in middle school when they were pulling my hair. Okay. Just to give you a little bit about Title IX, that's another story.
Yeah.
I had bigger fights on most of the campuses with the male football and the male basketball and I've got stories that
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
so
So
that's my background.
Maureen has a question. She said, what do you think your dad thinks of all this? Given what you told us about his lack of talking about it, he didn't have much to say.
I will tell you what my father and I can imitate my father, and he would say, "Well, ain't that something?" That would be the end of that. No more conversation.
I love that. I love that. Oh my. Oh wow. Yeah, I kind of figured that was gonna but that, yeah. And so Maureen said that's high praise because
Oh, yes.
of what you said. So you interviewed a whole variety of people. You told us all, and even with your dad's story, because he never told you much, you had, in fact, your first revelation was, I didn't even know you played. What did you find most surprising, most interesting of some of the things you learned?
And I'm not saying this because he's my dad, but how good he was.
Hmm.
He was good. He
Yep.
wasn't just, as I would tell people when I still go to the school systems. I'm in high demand because I bring presents. I bring, if I go to middle school, they're all like, oh, no, Miss Hamilton is here. And they'd see me, well, oh, yeah, what'd you bring? Um, and thanks to the Nashville Sounds, they would always donate their apparel and things of that nature that I could take. And the kiddies, and that's how I get their attention as an old public school teacher, Miss Cece. I had to always get their attention and keep it.
Yep.
So that's how that happened. But I would tell them, well, let me say this about my daddy. He just wasn't an average Joe Blow playing this game. He's got statistics that showed he was good. At one time, a couple of times he batted, I think it might have been a couple of years, several years, where he batted in the 300s.
Oh,
And
yeah.
uh, he was behind Cool Papa Bear because he was fast. He told me he was fast. And when my father said something, he said, I always tell you what is the truth. Okay. I'm not saying this because everybody wants to be fast. I was fast. I said, okay, Dad, I'll take you at your word. But I saw the stats. He was
Mhm.
fast. And so, and he was always a leadoff man. Um, so I was surprised at how good he was. He was good. And he played for, oh, wow, how many years did he play?
16.
16. Thank you. I was getting ready to say 17, as you can tell. I had to think. But that's a long time to be good at your craft.
Yep.
And he was always viable. He was always in the hunt. He was always a leader. Um, and he took it he was a serious man during serious time. And so his playing, the way he played, was serious. And the other players would tell me, well, you would catch hell from Kimbro if you didn't give your all. Man, he had a lot to say to you then. And I was like, you don't have to tell me I'm his daughter, okay? I know that road.
So, I'm just the comments and so Scrappy says, "Thank God for your hard work, Miss Hamilton. May your voice and works continue to shine light on these beautiful memories." Oh,
Thank you.
uh, so you've got two books on this aspect of your dad's, and now a documentary film, and I suspect you're not done.
Look,
So what's next?
hear voices. That's what the movie say. I see that. Yeah, people.
You're not done.
I hear voices. So
Uh-huh.
I can't say I like to think so because I'm kind of tired, I'm kind of
Yep.
tired. This is a lot. This is a lot.
Mhm.
And it has taken up a lot of my time. So
Mhm.
I'm glad to do it and it has been fun. But
Good.
it's work. And I am like kind of like my daddy. I'm just not gonna half do it. I'm
Right.
gonna do it all the way. And he would say, either do it right or don't do it at all. So I have his philosophy, and one day I was sitting in my classes at Fisk University, and I thought, oh dear Lord, I'm like my daddy. I study hard, I went at it hard, and I thought, oh geez, I thought I wasn't going to be like my father. And my mother said, and why would you think that? Because my mother was totally different. She was a golden soul. She was she was golden. She would never ever get at anyone. No one was afraid of her. They all loved her. Everywhere she went, my mother, everybody loved my mother. They didn't say that about my father. Okay. You could see him a half mile or a mile coming. He's coming. And you knew whether it was going to be a good coming or a bad coming, as my brother and I would say. This is not a good coming. Because he puff and blow your house down. So, um, yeah, I'm tired. But again, whatever comes,
Wherever it takes you.
yeah,
Okay.
it takes me.
So, what did your mom think growing up of your participation in all of the baseball playing and things that you did?
She couldn't stop me. She was ready for me to help her wash the clothes. And as a little girl, I figured out wash the clothes, go play baseball. Wash, or go play baseball. Baseball had it hands down. So when my father ran out, and he didn't stop me. He was very Title IX oriented before before the times. He was like, whatever's good for him is good for her, and he would tell me that. So he would tell me, so what is your excuse? I don't have one, Daddy. I'm just going to tell the truth. I don't have an excuse. He said, so you're playing, you're staying in the house, what you doing? And that would be my key to run. That was his signal to me. You gonna make a break for it, or what you gonna do? I grabbed whatever and I would go. And my mother couldn't stop me because my father was on board. He was on board. And so I would play in the neighborhood, and we played all the time because everybody knew who my father was. And he had the old equipment that he would let the kids play with. So my brother would bring the old equipment, and everybody had a glove, and everybody. So no, they couldn't. They couldn't tell me not to play where I wanted to play, and not to come to bat, because if I go home, I'm spilling the beans, baby, and I may cry a little bit and make my daddy mad. So I got to play every time they played. I played. And
Awesome.
we had a ball in the neighborhood because one of the neighbors had the biggest field ever, and all the baseball games were there. And so it was a community team. And you're right, Miss CC, none of the other girls wanted to play. They all wanted to stand on the side and look cute. Well, I didn't grow up. No one taught me to be cute or look cute. My had a hat on my head, like y'all saw earlier. That's my constant companion. And go play ball. And so the guys were like, well, she's gonna play. And I played hind catcher, believe it or not. I played hind catcher. And I don't care how I threw that ball, I could catch it and try to, tag people out and that sort of thing, because I learned it from my dad. So I got pretty good at that.
Well, that was going to be my next question, where you played, but you just answered it because I was very curious what your spot on the field was that you got to choose.
I could play in the spot. Today, I'm pitching. Miss Cece, she was on my team. I would say Miss Cece is pitching, and I'm hind catching.
There you go. That would be quite the battery to get to see the two of you doing that.
I would pay
Kat, it looks
big
like you got
money to
something.
see
Go ahead,
that.
Kat. Sorry?
I would pay big money to see that battery.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Lex. Scrappy, go ahead. I see your hand up.
For as much as a tech person that I am, I'm also struggling with Zoom again. But yeah, Miss Hamilton, I love that you're a catcher. I am also a catcher, so it's pretty awesome. So putting the little bit of femininity in it, it's kind of a personal question. How was the evolution of how you used your hair? Like, did it break off a lot? Were you able to put it up? Was it able to still stay kind of cute? Yeah, how did you manage your hair being a catcher, especially with that mask?
I put that catcher. I have my hat on backwards, and I put the catcher's on, and that was the end of that. And however my hair came out
You
was
just have
the way my hair came out. Because no boys were, I don't know if boys were looking at me. They didn't approach me because I was I'm a baseball player and like you all are. And so they always treated me like that. They never came over. Of course, I was around my brother too, and my brother wasn't having you treating me, trying to treat me different. No, I had my brother there by me all the time. And my house was on the next lot. Hello. I could go tell my dad, somebody out there trying to mess with me, daddy. So we were scared of my father, but everybody else was too. So we tried to kind of do that thing so people wouldn't mess with us. But as I got older, that still wasn't an issue because in high school I played volleyball. I tried out for the basketball team and I was quick, but I didn't get on the team. And now that I reflect back, there were some other issues out there. And I kind of see things a little bit more clearly. You can look back and look at the situation. You think, wait a minute, isn't that bad? What? Why was I, at the time you got cut, move on, keep doing what you're doing. So I played volleyball at that time, and everything was pigtails, whether it was 2 or 1. 2, 1. That was my natural hair. So even in high school, it wasn't until I got to college that I began to do things with my hair and try to be cute. But I played on the first basketball team at Fisk University. So I knew how to put my hair in the pigtail and keep it moving. But afterwards, after the game, I didn't know how to get it together and look cute. That was my look cute era, was college.
That works. All right. We have time for probably one more question. If there's anybody that wants, we've got any, I'm looking in the chat. I don't see any, though I do see a comment, Harriet, that you'll appreciate. Ellen wrote, chores versus sports, no contest. We'd all agree with you on that one.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not seeing
that
any.
was quite enjoyable. Quite enjoyable.
Yes. Thank you, Cece. Agreed.
Cece.
Very admirable.
Yes. I told you we were kindred spirits. When you started talking, I thought, what?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just didn't do basketball because I was too short. They kept blocking everything. I wasn't but 3 foot something.
You did the point guard thing. I was the brains of the outfit.
There you go.
There you go. Somebody's got to do that. So, well, thank you so very, very much, Harriet. That was wonderful and fascinating to hear. And I encourage everyone to go out and check out both of her books. They're really informative. They're fascinating, and they're just great. And so I would encourage you all to go out and check those out.